So the division series has wrapped up, and here is our winners and everything that's going to go on. We're going to be previewing the series and predicting them for the future. So let's just get right into this video. First, we're going to start off with the NLDS, which is going to be between the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies. Really crazy series, honestly. I really thought there would be a different outcome in how this one went. So the Phillies end up winning this one 3-1. It's a pretty crazy series. Obviously, that first game was really intense when Philly was able to win 7-6. And then Atlanta clapped back, and then they won 3-0. And then the last two games in Philadelphia, they absolutely destroyed them, being 9-1 and then 8-3. So Philly did a lot of scoring in these games. So the Philadelphia Phillies did a lot of scoring in these games. The only game they didn't score was that second game. They got shut out. So that was the only game they actually lost. Pretty impressive hitting from Philly across the board. I mean, they played fundamental baseball. I mean, from Atlanta, it was very shocking to see them go out this early. And I think that's something they're going to have to realize, they're not the best team in the world, which is, very shocking. A team like the Phillies can end up beating them, probably having one of the worst bullpens in Major League Baseball, at least in the postseason, because they were like 24th in most of the stats across the league. So I think some of the big takeaways from this series is that Philly is really this good. I thought they were going to get smoked by the Cardinals. Apparently not. They had some clutch hitting in that game. Once again, a clutch hitting in this series as well. And they really just started to get on fire. So we'll see if that carries them into the next round, which I think it is going to. But for Atlanta, I mean, this is back to the drawing board right here. They have a lot of these players on extensions, so they will be back here next year. But I think for them, there's a lot of good free agent pitchers in the market that they could definitely look into. I mean, if you look at their playoff run, I guess this year, the pitching really killed them. They did score. They scored 6 runs in the first game, 3 in the second, 1 in the third, and 3 in the fourth. So I don't think hitting is really that big of a problem when they're letting up 9, 8, 7 runs a game. I think that's more about the pitching side that they got to look into. Maybe for, next year. I really thought their pitching staff was good enough, but I guess not this year. So let's go on to the next NL series between the Padres and the Dodgers. San Diego, once again, came up as the underdog, winning this one 3-1. Very surprising. I did not expect this at all. Once again, I thought the Braves and the Dodgers were going to be, one of my favorites to get to the World Series, honestly. But I guess not. It's going to go a different path. So if I break this down game by game, the first game, LA won 5-3, and then San Diego had the series the rest of the way, winning game 2 5-3, then game 3 2-1, and then the final game 5-3. So San Diego really put on a show. And it's very surprising that LA actually lost the series. They usually don't do this too often, and normally when they do, they come back really strong next year. But very interesting stuff is going to happen because there are a lot of free agents on this Dodgers roster, with Clayton Kershaw being up, Trey Turner's about to be up. They obviously have Joey Gallo, which I don't think is going to re-sign. And they have a couple of their bullpen pieces and starting pitchers up. Personally, I think they should re-sign Trey Turner, but I don't think it's going to happen just because they're like $40 million above the luxury tax. So if you take out Kershaw, Gallo, and Turner, they're actually under the luxury tax. So if they don't sign those 3 players, they're actually fine. But it would be pretty weird to see Kershaw retire or be on another team. But he has also stated in the past that he wants to be closer to home, and he does live in Texas. So maybe the Rangers could offer him, maybe Houston could offer him. I don't know, we'll see. Going into this free agency, we have a lot of pitchers that are going to be free agents. Not too many big name hitters, but there are a lot of smaller pieces that are hitters that can very well fill a roster that the main media is probably not going to talk about. So interesting to see what they're going to do. But the San Diego Padres coming out on top, finally beating the Dodgers. Very impressive to see that, in my personal opinion. So I'm very excited that they actually got over the hump. I mean, this was their goal all year long, to beat LA. That was their goal all year long, and they finally were able to accomplish that. So I'm very excited to see them. Yeah, and throughout this whole series, I mean, they played really good fundamental baseball. I mean, they did give up a lot of home runs in this series for their pitching staff, but overall the hitting came in clutch when it mattered. You had a lot of really good hitters on this team. Juan Soto put up a lot of base hits. Will Myers put up a lot of base hits. Definitely Trent Grisham, underrated player on this team. A lot of people don't really know who this guy is. Center fielder, batted 192 all season. I knew this guy was going to be a stud, though. When you look at Trent Grisham play, he's not really the best. He's not known for his hitting, let's say, okay? He's not the best hitter. But when it mattered, he came down to him. He had 3 home runs in this one series, so pretty impressive. I think it was 3 home runs across the whole postseason between the 3 other games they played with the Mets, but still really impressive game. 3 home runs in 7 games, pretty much, so really impressive from him. I think he's one of those underrated players that no one's really looking at, but to me, I kind of always knew he was a good player. I mean, you look at his past, postseason stats and his, season stats before, some of the way he approaches the plate and how he plays, you could tell he's a great player. He's definitely proven that this year. I think a lot more people are going to hear that name going on into the next round too. So to take away from the Padres, they played really fundamental baseball, finally getting over that hump to beat LA, and they're looking like they're going to win this whole thing. So I guess we'll wait and see in the next round. All right, so let's move into the ALDS now, starting with Houston and Seattle. I mean, I don't think a lot of people expected Seattle to really win this series, but it was a lot closer than people think. It's actually a really close series that went 3-0, which maybe Seattle should have won at least one of these games. Because you look at the first game, 8-7 they lost to Alvarez walk-off home run. I mean, we'll definitely haunt this team for a while if they don't make it back here again. Really good hit from him. Robbie Ray kind of blowing that one. It's such a hard situation whether you want to keep Sewell in that game or put Robbie Ray in, just because he didn't really have a good performance against Toronto. So they go with Robbie Ray and they kind of blow the game. So that's a game they probably should have won. If you look at game 2, Houston ends up winning 4-2. Another really close game in 9 innings. And, this is another arguable game they could have won, once again blowing the lead. So it's just pretty embarrassing for the pitching staff in general. And then you look at game 3, the one in Seattle. I mean, it's a 1-0 game into the 18th inning. I mean, you got to find a different approach after, I think some guys had 7-8 at-bats in this game. Playing 18 innings, you get 7-8 at-bats, and you can't find a way to make offense. I mean, that's just a bad, and that's a bad on both teams, to be honest. But if you're Seattle, you got to find a way to get offense. You got to bunt guys. We're having a lot of shifts on Cal Raleigh, I saw. Got to try to lay a bunt down at least to try to make something happen. Try to steal some. You got to make some kind of offense, some kind of small ball happen. At least try to score some runs, because when you're in extras, it's pretty much your game to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you lose that, it's pretty bad, because you pretty much can walk it off any time with one swing in the bat. Yeah, so that was the nail in the coffin, I think. After that second and first game, I mean, it was just bad. I mean, I thought if Seattle won that third game, they'd at least have another shot in that game 4. But, I mean, it's just so many, choke defeats. And really, they should have played way better baseball, in my opinion. So, if you look at my takeaways for Seattle, I mean, obviously, it's their first time in the postseason in a while. So, they're definitely going to have to get some better players and try to learn and try to, get better in this situation. Obviously, they're playing one of the best teams. They played them multiple times in the division. So, I thought they'd have a good shot. And they did play them really well, to be honest. So, I don't know what Seattle will do going into the postseason. I don't really know their free agent structure or who they want to get. I'm not really, in tune with that. So going into this free agent market, like I said, there's a lot of pitchers available. They could probably pick up a couple pitchers. They could do some extensions. We've seen with the Luis Castillo extension and the Julio Rodriguez extension that they're willing to do that. So I expect to see some more of that to some other players, maybe Cal Raleigh, their catcher. That'd be a very interesting offseason for Seattle, and I think they're going to do a good job of it. And I hope to see them back here next year because I think they deserve it. And for the Astros, I mean, it's business as usual, but I mean, I would look at this series and I realize, wow, they really played us well. So we got to perform even better in the next round. So, it's business as usual, I guess you say 3-0, nothing crazy. You get a lot of time off for the next series. But they're looking good heading to the next round. So the Yankees do end up winning this series. It was kind of a crazy series with the rain delays and stuff like that going on. Yankees do end up closing it out, though, with some really good hitting from Aaron Judge and Carlos Stanton, and their other hitters to get on and stuff like that. The Hicks thing was kind of unfortunate and later in the game. But yeah, he'll be out, so they'll figure out the outfield later in the next round. But overall, I think these teams really battled it. Cleveland did look really good with this new young core that they have. So that's very exciting. They'll definitely be back in the postseason again next year. Very exciting to see who they sign in the offseason. But the Yankees, once again, they did play better. They should have won a lot easier, to be honest, I think, with how much money is in this team compared to Cleveland. But yeah, they'll move on to the next round and face the Astros, and we'll see what kind of series we have. I don't think it's going to be a close series at all. I think Houston's kind of going to win, to be honest. I think the big takeaways for Cleveland is, you have a young core still. You just got to build around them and see what you can do. You made the playoffs, beat the Rays, which is really exciting. Home, and then you brought the Yankees to Game 5. So they played really well throughout the whole postseason if you look at it like that. And they'll be back next year. Hopefully next time they can make it to the ALCS. But we just got to wait and see what Cleveland does. And for the Yankees, I thought they should have at least won 3-1, to be honest. But, it is what it is. Do they really have a shot against Houston? I really don't think so. It will be a good series, but I think, I don't know. I just think it's going to be tough, especially because they're going to be on short rests for their pitchers most of the days with just how their series played out. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how that one goes. I'm not going to lie. But they did play pretty well in this current series. They had a really good lot of hitting. They had a lot of errors, though, especially in that outfield near third, short, and left. So that's something to keep in mind. They did mess up a lot of times against Cleveland, which honestly brought them back into most of the games. You look at the Ramirez thing, and you got the triple off that, a couple errors and stuff. You look at the pop-up in the Game 5. There's a lot of bad situations that were happening over on the Yankees defense. But overall, they played like a team. They played a good series. had some ups and downs, but the pitching I think really stepped up when it needed to, which is why they were able to get over the hump. And yeah, I think they played really well, and I'm looking forward to see what the Yankees do in the next round. So let's go ahead and look at this NLCS. We've talked about the DS a lot. Let's go ahead and prepare for the CS, which is the championship series if you guys didn't know. So Phillies playing San Diego. San Diego's home for the first two. Phillies home for 3, 4, 5. San Diego's home for the last two. Very interesting series that we have here. These teams have not played each other all year, which is very surprising. I thought they were going to play each other sometime throughout the year, but they have never played each other, at least in 2022. So it's going to be a very interesting series to see what actually happens. I really don't know how to call this one, if I'm going to be honest, because both of these teams were the underdogs going into their division series matchups. Now they're both looking like the top dogs. So I really have no idea who's going to win this series, to be honest. So if I had to predict, I really want the Phillies to win because, you know, I've loved their stadium. I love their team. I love the players on that team. You know, and they kind of are close to home. But I do think San Diego's actually going to win this series. I do think they look like the better team. If both teams can stop the home run game, I mean, it's going to be a good series. I mean, that's the problem with San Diego. They allowed so many home runs to the Dodgers, and the Phillies have a really good hitting core. So it's going to be really hard to stop that. But if the Phillies could shut down San Diego, they didn't really hit insanely amount like the Phillies did. So if they could shut it down, the Phillies could really easily win this series. But I think if I had to take a guess, I'm going to go San Diego in Game 6. I think they're going to win it in Game 6, 4-2. If they can shut down their hitting, this team's done because their bullpen is terrible. And, you know, we've been seeing from the stats and all those, you know, stuff, but they've been really good. So I don't know. I think I'm going to go San Diego Game 6, 4-2 to win. And, you know, I'm going to keep denying the Phillies so they keep winning, hopefully. So that's kind of my strategy going on there with these predictions. Now, looking at the Yankees versus the Astros series, it's going to be a really interesting series. The last time these teams have played was that 2017 run, and the whole cheating scandal happened. So, going to be pretty interesting to see how this series goes again. Like I said, I do think Houston is going to win this one. I think it's going to be a 4-2 or 4-1. I think they're going to beat them pretty dominantly just because this team is not going to have a lot of pitching. They've obviously pitched, you know, yesterday, and then they got to play 2, then 1 off day, then 5 straight. So the Astros have been resting for 3 days in a row, so they're probably pretty good on their pitching, but the Astros start to hit and the Yankees got to use a lot of pitchers, then I can see it going downhill. So that's kind of my prediction on that whole series, how it's going to go, and I do think the Astros are going to end up winning that, and then it will be Astros-Padres would be my prediction, which will be an interesting World Series and see how that one goes. Don't really know who would win that one yet, just because we haven't really seen this series, so I kind of want to see how teams are at. Like I said, the Astros only played 3 games so far, so it's not much of a sample size to go off of. So, yeah, I do think if the Yankees end up losing this one, I would not really be surprised. I mean, they have a ton of problems with their own team in general with the pitching, and then they can't decide who wants to play what position still. So I don't know what they're doing over there, to be honest. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the Yankees in the offseason if they lose or if they go to the World Series. You know, we'll see. I guess we'll wait and see. If you guys enjoyed my predictions video on the next round and the coverage of the Division Series round and all my thoughts like that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out all my socials linked down below in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.